Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel.
Welcome to Parenting in the 21st Century. I'm your host, Zina Shevchik. Today we have Detective Sergeant Ken Fuchs of the Colonie Police Department to talk about strategies to help keep our kids safe on the internet. Welcome, Detective.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
When I called the Colonie Police Department a few weeks ago and asked to speak to someone who was an expert in internet safety, they gave me your name.
Oh.
Can you tell me what exactly you do as part of the Colonie Police Department with regard to the internet?
Sure. As far as the internet's concerned, we're pretty fortunate here in the town of Colonie to actually have a designated unit that investigates these type of internet crimes. We have a computer crimes unit, and there's basically three functions that we do in the computer crimes unit. First off, we educate the public, and that's kind of what we're hoping we're doing today, making them aware of some things they may not be aware of. And so therefore, we speak to school groups, we speak to parent organizations, speak to school teachers. Very recently, I just spoke on 6 different meetings with the South Colonie School District, whereby it was mandatory training for each teacher in the South Colonie School District to attend this type of training. And Mr. Marcelli does a fabulous job there, South Colonie. But so we do some educational aspect of it. In addition to that, we investigate computer crimes. And during the investigation of computer crimes, we also get involved in what's called the science of computer forensics. Chief Hyder has been great, where he sent me to several schools, and you know, I have some education as far as doing computer forensics on computers. And basically, what that is, we have the ability of taking a hard drive on in a computer and making a blueprint copy of it. And we use some software. Specifically, we use what's called NCASE software. And we have the ability of doing some pretty magical stuff with the hard drive, doing some searches, recovering deleted files and whatnot, all without altering the contents or accessing the hard drive itself. We make a blueprint copy of it. Therefore, as far as evidentiary purposes, we don't change any of the content of the actual physical original evidence. Lastly, I'm fortunate to be a member of the Albany's, the FBI's Innocent Images program. And that's down at McCarty Avenue at the FBI building. And myself, along with 7 other officers and FBI agents from the area, actually do proactive work, whereas we get online and we end up getting into different aspects of the internet, such as chat rooms, social networking sites, peer-to-peer sites, file sharing type sites, and we do some undercover work in an attempt to try to make some arrests and to find out some the online predators and whatnot that are out there.
Oh, that's great. What I think I would like you to elaborate on a little bit more today is the kind of material that you present to parents and teachers about keeping our kids safe on the internet. For instance, is it hard to convince people that there is issues of safety when they're on the internet? I guess that's my first question.
Sure. You know, when I go and speak to different groups and parents, a lot of times they're shocked by some of the things I expose them to. You know, I think internet safety in general now has become a very hot topic in the press. So it has educated parents and you know, kids alike to see some of the dangers. But we actually talk, when I go out and speak, I talk about some different cases that we've been involved in. I just basically explain to them some of the problems or concerns that are out there. And yeah, they are quite alarmed when they do see the things that we do expose them to.
So what do you suggest that parents do to help keep their kids safe? I think it's a little bit different for a teacher in a school. I assume they operate under some kind of legal restrictions as to or formats that they have to follow in terms of keeping their students safe. But parents, can you talk a little bit about what parents might be able to do at home, or particularly in convincing their kids that there is a problem, there could be a problem?
Right. One of the biggest problems parents have, and rightfully so, most parents today grew up in a time where the computer wasn't a major part of their life. So they're kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit, or behind educationally where kids are today. Computers and kids today is just a huge part. They kind of go hand in hand. As a kid today, because it's such a big part of their life, kids are consistently sharing information, daily in conversations. So it's kind of a networking thing where they're continually educating themselves, and they're on this stuff daily. It's for kids to come home from school, one of the first things they do is they jump into a whether it be an instant message conversation with another kid. The phones are kind of old hat now, unless you're mobile, and that's even kind of going by the wayside now because of technology. A lot of the phones and PDAs and whatever else they have are now coming out with internet access. So it's just technology is incredible, and at the same token, what parents can do is they have to kind of get past that, the concern that they don't know as much as kids, and they're not going to be, as educated as kids. And so, once they accept that, what they'll need to do is just educate themselves. And there's really no better place to educate yourself than to the internet. As far as internet safety is concerned, sometimes everything is not true on the internet, and that's one of the pitfalls of the internet, because you never really know what someone's agenda is that's writing it. But on the same token, it's very simple for a parent to type in internet safety, and they'll just get thousands and thousands of sites that they can actually go to. And there's a lot of trusted sites that are out there, government sites, that provide a lot of good information to parents on what they should be looking for and what they can do, what they should be telling their children.
Right. One of the my kids are in college right now, but because I didn't know a lot about the internet when my kids started using it on a non-academic basis, when they started using it with instant messaging. For example, this was pre-Facebook and pre-MySpace. The one thing we did was put the computer in a public area because we didn't know what it was and what they were going to see. We had heard warnings about pornography, and we did not quite understand how pornography would wind up on our computers, so that was one of the reasons we put the computer in public space, and I think that was, for us, the best thing we could have done, because the kids, our kids, therefore couldn't hide anything, and they weren't alone. I think that was it more, that they weren't alone. It seemed very hard to convince them that a person on the other side of the whatever the network is, the instant messaging, could be a stranger. I mean, when you walk out the door with a child, it's very obvious when you're walking down the street who a stranger is. But to me, over the internet, it's very difficult to determine, as you say, the motivation of the person on the other side of the interaction. So is that a really still considered one of the best things a parent can do, is to keep the computers in a public area, or is that not enough any longer?
Absolutely. I mean, that was a great decision by you to do that, and that's one of the teaching points when I do go out and speak, is you are doing no service to your child if you allow them to have a computer in their bedroom. And it's simple as because kids are going to do something, you know, if you give them the ability of, you know, doing something behind closed doors, they're going to do it rather than do it obviously when you're sitting right next to them or exposed to them. So it is a big teaching tool that we speak of.
That's very hard. And talking about peer pressure, I think for parents too, is they want their kids to be popular, or at least to be up to the minute with the other kids that they're interacting with. And so it's very hard to say no to a computer in a room or a TV or anything else, because a really large percentage of kids do have that. You may have, I mean, that's my sense from living in a suburban area, is that a tremendous number of kids actually have the technology tools in their bedrooms. So,
Absolutely.
And it's very hard to convince parents that that's not the way to go. What else do you think that parents, I know we talked off screen for a while, and you talked about it being important for parents not to overreact to problems, and communication as being a key.
Absolutely. If you think about it very simply, the way that you react to when a child comes to you is going to set the groundwork on the way if they are indeed going to come to you another time. Because if they encounter something that is disturbing to them and they expose you to it, and you react in a way that angrily, and for the most part put the blame on them, you know, it's going to set the groundwork as far as the next time that they actually, you know, approach you. Just thinking that, you know, I got yelled at last time, I better just not say anything about this. Because pretty much the worst thing you can do to a kid today is take away their privileges to access a computer. It's a very important part of their life today. And if you take that privilege away from them, you know, that it's a big deal for them.
Right. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about MySpace and Facebook, and just describe what they are and what the potential pitfalls are?
Sure. You know, absolutely. MySpace as well as Xanga, Facebook, those are examples of what we refer to as social networking sites. And there's a real danger with social networking sites, especially as far as the online predator goes. What used to be a process, or it still exists obviously, which is called grooming, whereas the online predator would, over a lengthy course of time, gather facts about an individual. When I go out and speak, I use a picture of a puzzle, because if you think about it this way, if I know your first name, I know that you know specific information about you, I can start to put pieces of a puzzle together. And that's exactly what online predators do. They gather over time pieces of information. At the same time, what they do is they end up becoming a friend of yours, and they say different things to you or try to build a bond with you eventually to get to you know, their devious intent. With social networking sites, because so much information is being put out there, part of social networking sites, there's surveys in there. Kids are putting cell phone numbers, their full names, their addresses, so much information about themselves that before an online predator even has a conversation or initiates a conversation with the person who put up the site, they can kind of tailor their conversation to be appealing to that person. And that's where the real danger is with social networking sites. If you add that along with what the information that kids are putting in, but in addition to that, the predators have access to their friend sites where they can even gather more information about the person that they're focusing their target on.
I know that particularly with putting pictures up, you mentioned, or I read somewhere recently, that just having a certain piece of clothing could identify where a person lives or goes to school. If you have a sweatshirt on with a particular school logo on it, or say a McDonald's hat on or something to suggest where you work, that kind of thing. So kids don't understand how, I guess, that how easy it is for others to identify them and where they live and what they do. So those are good points. Can you tell us some specific cases that you have come across in this area, in the region, regarding internet safety? Because you started to tell me, again off camera, a little bit about some specific cases, and it was very illuminating to me and very educational to learn about specific cases.
Sure. You know, we deal with several cases. I mean, I probably have at this point, you know, at least 6 to 8 active cases that we're working right now. You know, they can range from what we call cyberbullying, which is you know, cases involving through instant messaging threats or some derogatory mark against someone, or it can actually be a sexual predator case. And we have, you know, actively ones that we're investigating right now that have occurred in the town of Colonie.
So you have a lot of experience with this. Are there statistics, any statistics about how often inappropriate contacts are made with underage kids, or any kind of statistics you can share with us?
Yes, there's a whole host of statistics. I think one of the most astounding statistic that I see is that 77% of youths are contacted by online predators by the age of 14. And if you think about that number, 77% is pretty high, but it's probably not even an accurate number. It's probably a lower number due to the fact that kids may not even realize that they're talking to an online predator. So to me, that number is pretty compelling.
So part of the solution is for, as I'm listening to you, is for parents anyway, is to be able to help their kids understand, to my mind, that everyone is a stranger over the internet until some kind of, until in effect their parents say it's not, they're not, or there's some other kind of proof that they're not a stranger. It's so hard to convince a child that having all these friends doesn't necessarily mean that having all these friends online necessarily means that they're truly friends. So a conversation is where you start, and trying to inform the kids that you're not trying to take away their technology, because as I see my kids in college, as you said, they're just totally enveloped with the technology. Their cell phones, text messaging, and their portable, their laptop computers, and as you said, their handhelds, PDAs. It's part of their future, and so the trick is to get them to understand that it's not the real world, that it's not you and I talking across a table, that it could be anybody across the airwaves, in effect.
Sure, it is very important for a parent to get involved in a child's internet life early. If they're not, then just to be involved. They need to be involved as part of parenting today, because as far as kids are concerned, I mean, kids may know a lot about the internet, but they're not making good decisions. A lot of them aren't, and if they don't have that parental involvement, we're just giving them an opportunity to not make good decisions. It's, you know, it's immaturity is
Right.
basically the key.
Do you know, I've heard that parents tell their children to let them know when there's something strange happening, but my suspicion would be that kids normally wouldn't do that, wouldn't tell their parents necessarily if there's something uncomfortable going on. Am I right?
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends on what type of relationship you have with your child. Ideally, most people probably believe or hope that if their child runs across anything, they'll come to them. That's not always the case. That's why it's important to be with a child very young in life and kind of walk them through the internet. You know, some of the statistics that are out there, that it's, I've heard statistics that 1 in 3 kindergartners are now on the internet. So they're starting very young. I know for myself that my children, you know, had a mouse in their hand right around 3 years old. We would get them on PBS sites and whatnot. So I mean, it's you know, they're very affluent with the technology as they go older.
That makes sense. I mean, if you have a conversation with them beginning when they're very young, and they learn to when they're young, obviously they're going to turn to you. So it's more likely that they'll continue that conversation with you as they get older.
Yeah.
What do you tell teachers or kids when you're doing your presentations? Do you tell them anything different than what we would be telling parents about the dangers and the way to circumvent the dangers?
Yeah, as far as teachers are concerned, I mean, teachers are in a great area to be an influence to a child, because they're with a child 8 hours a day. You know, with busy parents today, a lot of parents aren't spending 8 hours with their kids. So, you know, they have them early in the morning, right through the afternoon. They can be a good influence in their life. They overhear a lot of things. And that's in part of the presentation I did, you know, a few weeks back with the South Colonies teachers. I've expressed that to them, that you people are in a great position to, you know, gather information at the same time to, you know, help kids, because you're overhearing different things that's going on, where they're at, what they're seeing, what they're doing. And you know, they can end up speaking to kids about it if they feel something isn't right, or they feel that a child is in danger.
That's a very good point about you know, teachers being around the children, in many cases many more hours a day than a parent. So they have, I assume, have to be even more savvy than a parent. So.
Yeah.
Do you have specific websites that you would recommend, or is it that parents can go to for more information, or is it actually on the Colonie site? I don't know the...
Yeah, we're in the process of putting some information on the Colonie site. Hopefully by next year, the beginning of the school year, next year, on our Colonie Police website, hopefully we're going to have an area designated for internet safety. That's part of my goal that I have next year. But there are very good sites that are out there. NetSmarts is a very good site. NetSmarts.org is a good site. Any of the federal ones, the FBI has some good tips on it. National Missing and Exploited Children's Clearinghouse, which is called NECMEC. They have a good site. The Department of Justice for the New York State, DCJS, has another good site that's out there. They have a lot of information that's going on.
Great. In the news lately has been, I saw in the Times Union, they talked about other problems with the internet that kids could get into as well as adults. Gambling, identity theft, buying drugs.
Sure.
over the internet. Could you talk a little bit about some of those?
And once again, I mean, these are all cases that you know, we've dealt with here in Colonie. There's a lot of dangers. Kids exposing to pornography is a huge concern. That you know, that there's all sorts of pornography on the internet. And plus you have your gambling sites, you have your hate sites, your racism sites that are out there. And kids have, if you don't have filtering software or monitoring software on your computer, and kids are actually looking for some of this stuff, or they just may inadvertently come across it, they could very easily be exposed to it. There are several dangers that are out there, and those that you just commented, those are definitely concerns.
Could you talk a little bit about the filtering software and what it is and where you get it and how complicated it is?
Sure. Many of the ISPs today are providing filtering software.
The internet, ISPs meaning internet service providers,
Yes.
so the actual companies that you buy access? That's okay.
Yes,
That's okay.
some of them are free. Okay, I happen to use one that I have personally on my computer. I won't mention the name of the company, but one of the area cable companies is providing free filtering software, obviously if you're a subscriber of that ISP. There are other notably ones that are out there, your AOLs, your MSNs, that also have filtering software. And there's different degrees of filtering software. Some of it may be free, some of it is being charged. There's also software that you can get out of a box from your local software retail store. And they range from about anywhere from $70 to $100. But it's a good investment, especially for younger kids, because if you don't have filtering software, or if you don't have a child-friendly browser set up, your child can very easily be exposed to something they're not looking for.
Now the software, the filtering software, as I understand it, and we have some of that software on our libraries, the county town libraries computers, filters out, tries to filter out a lot of pornography and sexual terminology and some hate speech, but my understanding is that it does have limits, because this is true, right? Because it has to be updated all the time, and there's ways that some companies or some websites try to get around that software. All I'm trying to do by mentioning this is suggesting that it's not foolproof, like it can't.
That is true. Yeah, absolutely. Some of the software, it does have limitations, and it's limitations in respect that it doesn't filter everything out. And some of the content that it does filter out may be content that you wanted to view. If you were looking at something to research the Holocaust, you may miss a lot of good information. Whereas if you were looking to look at something else, some pornography may end up being filtered through. There's devious groups that are out there, and they specifically want to get, for whatever reason, they want to get their message across, and they want to expose people to their agendas. So they work very hard to circumvent the matter. So it's kind of like good against evil,
right,
that goes on with this stuff.
In our last few minutes here, I just want to mention or chat a little bit about what you talked about in trying to retrieve information from computers, because I know in the news lately there's discussions about whether or not emails, once they're deleted, are actually deleted, and discussion about when you pull something off of or try to take something down from the MySpace websites, if they're really not there any longer, if people really can't gain access to it. And just in our last few minutes, if you would just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's not always gone. Just because you're not seeing it doesn't mean that it's still not accessible some way. Different servers keep cache, it's called, cache part sites, so those sites can still be accessed. As far as from the police are concerned, when we look at a computer, a lot of things that aren't visible, so physically the address to look at that from the operator's perspective is gone, but with our forensic tools, we do have an access to look at it. And there's a lot of software that it's becoming available because of identity theft and encryption and whatnot, that there's a lot of tools that are coming out and about that are being made available to public, that is giving them the ability to actually do these things.
Oh, that's great. I want to give you an opportunity to tell people how they can contact you, or people in your department if they would like a speaker or a presenter, or if they would like to find more information out. So if you would just give me your phone number out there, or your website, or what.
Oh, absolutely. The website is www.colonie.org/police, and quite obviously with the Colonie Police Department. And my phone number at the Colonie Police Department is 783-2744. And if you were to call up, I do have voicemail there. And we'd be available. I just have to clear it through Chief Hyder, and he's great about doing any service for the town. So I'm sure that we could accommodate someone.
Thank you very much
All right, thank
for
you.
taking the time to talk to us. I'm sure it's been a big service to the parents in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching Parenting in the 21st Century with Detective Sergeant Ken Fuchs of the Colonie Police Department. Good night.